What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Coast to Coast podcast. It's been a minute, but there's no better time to talk about the NBA than right now. Just wrapped off the 2024 NBA draft. We got free agency going on as we're filming. So, no better person to bring on than one of our reoccurring guests, Griffin Winter. Griffin, how are we doing today?
What up? No better time. People are saying this is the draft of all time, and I'm here to agree. So we're ready to break it down. It's exciting stuff. Plus free
Indeed.
agency.
Well, hey, before we jump into free agency, we got to talk about this draft. So, let's take a look. Some winners, some losers, some sleepers, players, teams from this draft. I'm gonna take it away with my first winner. I got to go with the Washington Wizards. I am a little biased since they did take, our Miami guy, Keyshawn George. So good pick by them. But you go get Alex Sarr, who falls in the number two, was a guy that was projected to go number one for several weeks leading up into this process. Then Zachary Ricochet ends up going number one. But you get Sarr, he's kind of got that new prototype big man build where he's a little mobile. He's 7-footer. He can kind of space the floor. Good defender. He's still kind of a project. He spent some time overtime elite before going over to the NBL, which is where he just came from for coming into this next season. Then Bub Carrington, a guy that can kind of be a microwave scorer in this class. They went and got him at 14 after trading Denny Avdija. And like I said, Keyshawn George. So that's one of my first winners. Griffin, what about yours?
Yeah, maybe we should have talked beforehand because they are also my number one. Alex Sarr, very raw, but on the defensive end, I think he's probably NBA ready. Very Jaren Jackson Jr. comp, at least from what I saw in my minimal pre-draft research that I've done. Post-draft, we've locked in a little bit more, but I think he was the number one consensus prospect for a reason. And I think the Hawks, it might not haunt them considering, what is his upside really, but it's definitely, to me a better pick than what they did with Risa at number one. Bub, really streaky shooter, but one of the youngest players in the draft. So hopefully they can iron out some of his inefficiencies as he grows into his body and his time in the league. And, Keyshawn George, shout out to you. 40.3 point shooter, great physical attributes, long wingspan, has the real potential to become a really good 3-and-D player at the next level. So I'm really a big fan of the Wizards draft class, and that is something we don't say often.
Yeah,
So
no.
shout out the Wizards.
So who's your second winner then?
I don't want to sound like a homer, but I didn't see a lot of winners in this draft. So I do have the Suns. Uh, considering our lack of assets and moving on the fringe, trading down from 22 to 28 to get Ryan Dunn, who is by far and away the best defender in this class. Crazy explosive as well. His biggest flaw and the reason he went 28 is that he's like a net negative on the offensive end. So if we lock him in the gym, he has the potential, bare minimum Suns fans, NBA fans in general, the way I'm kind of viewing this is if he doesn't add anything to his offensive game, he's still going to be a potential all defensive type player. But hopefully he can add more to his jumper as it goes on. We also have Oso Ikidaro in the second round, who the Suns picked at pick 40. I'm kind of seeing Trace Jackson Davis comps when I watch his highlights. A little bit of an undersized five who can guard both the four and the five, not really able to extend out from deep, but a good defender and a lob threat. So, the Suns moving on the fringe to kind of get a little bit better than hopefully getting swept in the first round.
Yeah,
Liam, what about you?
yeah,
If you want to talk on it,
I'll just add on.
speak
Ryan
on it.
Dunn, I got to see him play against Miami a couple times. A great defender. The way I see it, he could be, Matisse Thybulle probably is like the best comp. You hope you get more than that. You need some guys that can space the floor, especially if you want to put him out, along with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. They need to be able to, sit in the corner and, do their role. So, but an elite NBA trait entering the, league, which is a good thing to see. My second winner, I think, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. For the fact that they went in and traded up to number 8 to select Rob Dillingham, who's a microwave scorer. I mean, we saw what he did at Kentucky this year, and the fact that you have him behind Mike Conley to be able to develop and be that spark for that team, potentially off the bench in year one. I'd imagine he's going to play some minutes coming off the bench for that team next season. And going back to 27th overall, you get Terrence Shannon Jr., who was one of the best scorers in college basketball this year. So a team that's got fantastic defense already with Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels, Nikhil Walker-Alexander, and then you get two guys that can be microwave scorers for you. They got to be a winner in my books. And then for my last winner, I'm taking the Philadelphia 76ers. You get two guys that can really be potential impact role players. I don't know about in year one because we'll get into some free agency signings. The 76ers did just bring on a big man, Andre Drummond. But, you get Jared McCain and Adem Bona, who, Bona was one of the best players in the Pac-12 the last 2 years, ripped the Pac-12. And then Jared McCain, a guy that can be a good 3-and-D guard, potentially play alongside Tyrese Maxey as early as, the start of the season in the starting lineup. People kind of look towards, oh, he's this guy that, makes TikToks, paints his nails, things like that. But he's more than that. He's a crazy good shooter. I remember watching back against Florida State this year. I want to say he hit 7 or 8 threes in a game. And, I thought at times that he was maybe Duke's best player over, Kyle Filipowski, who ended up falling in this draft, and Jeremy Roach, who ended up transferring to Baylor this offseason. But yeah, that was my third winner. And Griffin, what about yourself?
Yeah, I had the Lakers. I also like those two as well. Especially Rob Dillingham moving up with the Spurs, not really giving up that much. I think is a really nice move, and I'll speak on it a little later. But the Lakers, I really like what they did with Dalton Connect, falling to them at was it 17 or 18?
17, yeah.
Yeah, 17. Like maybe one of the steals of the draft, just considering what his range was. I think going into it was probably in like the 7 to 10 range, falling maybe even 10 spots to the Lakers. A three-level scorer who has the ability to contribute right away on a contending team. I think, well, not really contending, but a playoff team.
Hmm.
But he has the ability to be an impact player year one, which I think is what the Lakers need compared to who they took last season. And of course, the storyline of this draft, Ronnie James, welcome to LA. Like I like the storyline just for that alone. Like, is it a good basketball fit playing with your dad? Probably not. Probably not. Like we all remember the Austin Rivers on First Take story about playing with his dad and the advice he gave to Bronny, which I thought was really sound advice. But he'll probably grind the G League for a little bit. But I do think for storyline purposes, Bronny James being the little sprinkle on top to the Dalton Connect Sunday, if you will, is a good little find for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, and I think no better coach to have in this situation than JJ Redick for Connect. I mean, they're
Is it
guys
because
that
he's white?
are no, because of their similarities in their game. I mean, there's a stuff that JJ Redick was drawing up like out of bounds plays and handoff plays for Connect, coming out. I think he can really be maybe a Duncan Robinson type guy, early in his career, and who knows if he gets better than that. But I mean, like microwave scorer, this guy was put up
Mhm.
40, 37-point games, a 40-point game, a 37-point game, led the SEC in scoring, dominant guy. So then we got to get into the losers, Griffin. I got to ask, who's your first loser of this draft?
I mean, it has to be the Hawks. I tweeted it right when it happened, but Zachary Ricochet is unfortunately already on Anthony Bennett watch. He's already on Andrea Bargnani watch. It is unfortunate to say, but like it's tough that the Hawks got stuck with the first pick in this specific draft, but you do have to make the best of it with your scouting department. And from what I was watching, he's a very streaky shooter. He would shoot 40% from three for a couple weeks in a row. Then he'd shoot like 28% from three. His defense is good, but not great. Like there's just a lot of things. I think if you're taking the first pick in the draft for a middling team like the Hawks, you kind of have to shoot for at least this is my draft. This would be my draft mindset. For a team like that, you kind of have to go big if you're going there. Someone who can be bare minimum an all star, and this guy's getting comped to be maybe Harrison Barnes or Tobias Harris in his career, which I don't think is wise to use as a first pick. I root for the kid, like he clearly has a lot, like a lot of haters going for him right now, or haters against him, just because of the circumstances around the draft. But still, like, I think it's a bad pick for the Hawks, who are in need of some life in this organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's my loser as well. I think, the reason why I shop these draft boards, especially up to number one, was I know he played really well to end the season in the playoffs for his team over in France. But yeah, I mean, like, you saw kind of the draft coverage. No one really thinks he wows you with anything. I mean, if his little like, ideal kind of, you know, way for him as a player is like an elite 3 and D player, like, is that really what you want in a first overall pick? I think they should have gone with Donovan Clingan. I know that, Clint Capella is a guy they want on the way out there. And I mean, like, I call this bold, like, I don't even think I would have hated if they took Reed Shepard number one overall. I feel like, especially with them moving on from DeJounte Murray, which is, another big move this offseason. You put him next to Trey Young, Reed Shepard can play some good defense, can just sit and spot up and be an elite 3-point shooter for you. Why not have that? But, Richiche, we'll see with him. I don't know. But my other loser, I'm just going to be an international hater here. I got the Charlotte Hornets, taking T
Dang.
on 6 overall. It seems like, we're probably on the same page with this. But, was it really worth it to take him 6 overall when I think there were some other guys that are a little bit more intriguing on the board? Matis Buzelis is a guy that I really liked. I thought that he was going to be the pick there. Maybe Cody Williams if you wanted to pair him next to Brandon Miller. But, I don't know about taking a risk on an international prospect that was kind of not even in the top tier of those fringe international prospects in a weak draft. I mean, obviously he can, wow us. I've listened to some stuff that, he's, athletic, can tend to have a good motor from what I heard from Bill Simmons. But, like I said, I don't really know about that, being your 6th overall pick for a team that really needs to start hitting on their drafts. Would have been great if Reed Shepard fell to them. That would have been ideal, but didn't happen in this draft. But, maybe they should have explored trading out of it and seeing if a team wanted to get Clingan. But again, I'm not in an NBA front office. I don't know what the talks were there, but I don't know. And I'm assuming you got something to add or agree that that's been.
I actually have him in my sleepers. I'll talk about him later. I actually do like the pick for them.
Mhm. So who are your other
Um,
losers
but
then?
my other two, my first loser or my second loser, are the Pistons. I
Hmm.
don't dislike Ron Holland as a pick or as a player in a vacuum if he was going to literally any other team, but I think this is probably the worst situation for him to go to in the entire league. Um, he's a very high energy athletic defender, but like not super polished on the offensive end, and it really reminds you of like the past Pistons draft, like Asar Thompson, Stanley Johnson, like in a very similar mold to that. And they were already bad at 3-point shooting, and you're just adding another project guy who has really high upside, really great potential, really athletic, really good on the defensive end, but little to no ability on the offensive end to make an impact right away. So I just really don't like the fit more than anything for the Pistons. So that's why they're my second loser. And my third loser are the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Ooh.
Um, I do like Nikola Topic as a prospect, but it's kind of similar. The situation that the Thunder are in, they were in the Western Conference semifinals. This is a guy who coming in is going to be bare minimum a little bit worse, if not considerably worse than Josh Giddey. Very similar play styles, pass first, bigger guard. But also he just got injured and tore his ACL. This guy's not contributing to winning this first season at all when the Thunder are on the precipice of possibly winning an NBA Finals. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't take like a Dalton Connect or one of the centers on the board that could play earlier than Nikola Topic, considering what the Thunder are attempting to do. So I really just don't like the pick. Like Nikola Topic again as a prospect, but don't really understand the fit there.
Yeah, no. I mean, I was kind of wild when it happened just because of the fact that, you guards are what this team's built upon. You have,
Mhm.
You have Shea, you have Casey Wallace, who was phenomenal as a rookie. You just added Alex Caruso. Of course, Topic might miss the entirety of next season just to keep him out and probably be, in their G League system. But I know, I mean, interesting pick. The idea is that he's a better version of Josh Giddey, which, Do they
We'll
really
see.
do they need that now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it seems that they have their eyes honed in on a certain big man, which we'll get into in the free agency part. But it's kind of looking at sleepers, maybe teams that had a good draft that you think want to give some flowers to, or maybe some players that you think will really turn out maybe because of their situation or just what you like in their play styles. Do you have anyone at the top of that list?
Yeah, I have two for my sleepers, and it's two guys we've already touched on a little bit. Saloon, how do you pronounce his first name? I'm
Talon.
sorry.
Uh,
Tal
yeah,
Talon Saloon.
Tijan
Like
Talon. Yeah.
yeah, he's so raw, but to me, I know there were talks from the Hornets front office that, or like some rumors from the Hornets front office that they were trying to get Castle, and since the Spurs took him, they kind of had to pivot in their draft strategy. And I like this pick from everything I've seen from interviews and from the YouTube highlights that I've watched. I think this guy really has a crazy motor, and I think for guys who have high end potential, if their motor, like if they really want it like that, like I believe that that is one of the biggest keys to these guys' successes, is continuing to care and day after day trying to improve their game. I think he's already pretty decent on defense. He has crazy athleticism, a really fun watch on YouTube. Like he's kind of like he sometimes gets a little tunnel vision on offense, takes some bad shots, but I when they go in, man, is it exciting. So I really do like that for the Hornets, for a team that has had a sneaky good past two drafts with Mark Williams and Brandon Miller.
Mhm.
And I think they're going in the right direction. I like the new coach that they hired. Getting Clifford out of there, I think, is going to be good developmentally. I think just kind of getting away from the Michael Jordan rot that the Hornets have been going through is going to be key for them. And I think this could be potentially another piece going in the right direction. So I am a fan of that. And then my other sleeper, not super sleeper because he's probably one of the most popular players in the draft, like consensus wise and from a social media perspective. But Rob Dillingham, I think him going to the Timberwolves is probably one of the best situations of anybody going anywhere in the draft. He can cook off the bench these first couple seasons, learn from Mike Conley, provide scoring where he needs to, and then hopefully after that 2 year time period, he's able to step into that starting point guard role and being a key piece alongside Ant in Minnesota. So I'm a really big fan of that. Shout out Donda Academy, man. Like Donda's finest. Like he's really doing the damn thing. So those are my sleepers.
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple guys. I'll hit in some first round guys, looking at the second round as well. But going off, Devin Carter was one of my guys going into this draft. I thought he could go a lot higher from what I saw from him. The defensive ability, a strong rebounder, really stepped in to a bigger role in Providence with injuries there. I think he'll be a great fit. He's an upgrade over Davion Mitchell, 100%. From what I see, I think he'll even compete to start alongside De'Aaron Fox over there. The Kings kind of have an interesting situation over at the shooting guard position. Keon Ellis played a big role for them down the stretch. Kevin Herter before that, but we're really with him, and Malik Monk's kind of best served as that go-to six-man option up the bench. So I like Devin Carter. I think he was a good fit there. Ron Holland I know, kind of going against you like you did with me with Salon. I think Ron Holland, a guy that was, he was a number one, overall prospect in his recruiting class. Depending on which site you look at, he was one of those guys. And I think going over to the Pistons, where he's not going to have a lot of, pressure on him, it may be a little bit of a dysfunctional situation, but you hope that, JB Bickerstaff, who's just the recent hire at head coach, I want to say today was the
Mhm.
hire was announced. You hope that, he's able to raise the floor of that team. And, with guys like Cade, hopefully you get something from Jay Ivey, Marcus Saucer, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson. I know it's a confusing situation, but I think he's got the physical tools to succeed. And, he didn't look the greatest with the G League Ignite, but he was also being played as a number one option, which he isn't going to be expected to be in Detroit. I think, we could maybe see, Jonathan Kuminga type stuff out of him. We see how Jonathan Kuminga's turned out, but apparently, the Clippers didn't want him, but, we'll talk about that later. And then otherwise, I think De'Aaron Holmes is a great pick heading over to the Denver Nuggets, was kind of mocked there for a long time. They ended up going to trade up with, the Phoenix Suns to get him. I saw a lot of people that were, the Twitter, social media draft analysts, people were putting him as high as like their third best prospect in the class. I know he had an All-American season at Dayton this year. One of only few notable names to come out of Dayton in the last few years. Shout out Obi Toppin. Bro just got paid today. But De'Aaron Holmes, I think he'll be a great fit. He can be that true backup behind Nikola Jokic, and hopefully this Denver team can continue to reload after. Again, we'll talk about some free agency stuff, but a big move on their end today. And then Isaiah Collier falling to 29. I feel like he could be a great fit alongside, what's his? I always get him confused. Keontae George. I was thinking of Keyshawn, but Keontae
Hmm.
George over in Utah. Another guy that, whether it was Ron Holland or it was Isaiah Collier, who's also the number one overall recruit in that class, wasn't have a lot of attention on him at USC, obviously, because people want to pay attention to what was going on, Bronny. But, didn't shoot fantastic, but he's a guy that can, he's got a big frame, can get to the rim. I think Utah might be building something out there of what they got. Taylor Hendricks was a guy I was big on last draft. Didn't really play a lot this year. But, if they move off of Lauri Markkanen, that could open up some minutes for him going in the next season. And, I trust that, this team can turn it around. I think Will Hardy is a solid coach. And I think, Collier, got some, they were draft winners, honestly. They got Collier at 29. They ended up getting Kyle Filipowski and Cody Williams as well. So good draft for them. And then looking over to the second round, some guys that fell. I think Tyler Kolek going to the Knicks is a perfect fit for him, to be that pure playmaker off the bench for them. Might even get some minutes in that talented Knicks team that probably is going to be tending for an NBA title next year. And then otherwise, I mean, I mentioned Adem Bona. I liked the pick there. Jamal Shed, really good point guard in college, one of the winningest player in the draft class. Harrison Ingram, I think is going to be a great fit over in with the Spurs, coming over from UNC this past year after transferring from Stanford, former 5-star guy, was the best rebounder on that UNC team down the stretch over, Armando Bacot. And then otherwise, Quentin Post, shout out the Warriors. I think it's going to be a solid pick. It was super confusing. Like we traded the pick and then we ended up buying it back, which I don't even know how because I thought like the CBA wouldn't allow us to buy it back. But I saw Quentin Post. I mean, I got to interview him when they came and played when Boston College played Miami. 7-footer. He's got some range. He can defend the rim. Should be solid. And Kevin McCullough also was going to be an All-American and got injured. And a really solid pickup for the New York Knicks as well. So another guy that might turn into a role player. But yeah. So do you have anything else to mention about the draft or ready to move on to free agency?
No, I think we covered it. There's been some free agency stuff that's happened that's really exciting while we've been recording, so I really want to get to that.
All right, so we'll be back to you guys in just a second, talk about some NBA free agency. All right, so we're back. Time to talk some NBA free agency. Had to check in real quick to see what's going on. Got a bunch of stuff going on. So let's look first, Griffin. CP3 released by the Warriors early today. Getting rid of his $30 million salary. He is with the San Antonio Spurs, a deal people have been talking about, I feel like since last year, potentially teaming up
Hmm.
Chris Paul with Victor Wembanyama. What are your early thoughts on this deal? Kind of a 1-year, $11 million deal to get him some experience. A guy that can throw some lobs and some good passes to
Yeah, entry passes. Shout out
yeah.
Bill Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I'm really a big fan of this signing as a newly big second team. They're my second team. Shout out the Spurs. I'm going big Wemby guy now. Like I think it's just going to be great for his experience and learning to play the right way. I think it'll be big for Stephon Castle as well. I think just having sort of CP shifting definitely from his contending era when he was in Phoenix to more of like a mentor role like he was a little bit in Golden State with it seems like Kuminga. I
Podzemski,
think
yeah.
is yeah, and Pods. Like I think it's gonna be a really good for the Spurs. Like I like this a lot. Not a lot of money. The Spurs had money to burn. Like it's really I don't see any way this is like not a good deal for both sides. I mean, CP's definitely not he's not getting a ring in his career if this is like his I would assume this is probably his last stop
Yeah.
but like I think this is a good way out to like mentor like the guy who's like really going to be next up in the league, which I really like a lot.
100%. I mean, I didn't even think of the Stephon Castle thing. That didn't even come to my mind first. But I mean, you think about a starting lineup, assuming CP is the guy that's going to at least start the season. It'll be CP3, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy
Mhm.
Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama. Whether you want to maybe get Tobias Harris, I know that's a rumor out there. Who knows? Maybe by the time this is uploaded, that's already happened. But I think a great move. And then got to talk about Paul George, another huge guy here for agency, kind of the crown jewel of this year's free agency. Said that he was looking at, the Clippers, the Orlando Magic, and the 76ers, but at the time being, reports coming out that he is done with the Clippers, kind of coming to an end of a infamous, run with the Clippers where, he was traded for a huge package, which we'll get into in a second, which I mean, I will remind everyone how crazy it was. But it seems like with KCP, let's mention real quick, 3 years, 66 million going to the Magic. Paul George likely on his way to Philadelphia. What are your initial thoughts on that? And kind of,
I just want to I just want to go back 1 second to the CP3 thing. I think he's probably also angling to become a head coach at some point, or at least
oh,
a coach. And I think he's really been learning from guys like D'Antoni and Steve Kerr, and now with Greg Popovich. Like I feel like this is also him kind of angling very much a player coach role on this team, on this young team in San Antonio. And I think that just adds even more to like this move being good. But I really like the KCP move to Orlando. I think him and Suggs are actually just going to be such an incredible defensive backcourt. Another like guy who's been a winning player in Denver, just joining up with a young but up and coming team that wants to make it further than the first round this year. In Orlando, I think this is nothing but good. Also, a very tradable contract if the Orlando really wants to like go all in for a superstar later down the line. I think this is good for the Magic, very very much so.
yeah,
And KCP gets paid, so
yeah, no, makes total sense. I mean, you
yeah.
still have so many young guys on that roster. Um, I gotta double check. I don't know if Cole Anthony's still on the team. I want to say he's
They
still,
have to move off some guards though. I mean,
but
it seems
Anthony
like Fultz
Black,
isn't
Marco
resigning.
Fultz is not. I don't think he's.
Yeah.
But like Anthony Black was a guy I was huge on. I know we've talked a lot about him on this channel last draft, and it's going to be interesting to see what his long term fit is there because he
Hmm.
kind of conflicts really with Jalen Suggs. So maybe he's a guy that they, hey, we pair him and Wendell Carter to get a different kind of center on this team.
Yeah.
I know I saw a rumor coming out that maybe the Pelicans were interested in him. But kind of going back to the Paul George thing, I think the Philadelphia 76ers would be a great fit for him, playing alongside Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. But then again, I just I don't know if they can even make enough moves this summer, like realistically, to catch up with what I see with the Knicks and the Celtics. I mean, I'm assuming you'd agree on that.
Yeah, like I mean, at this point in Paul George's career, he's still a really good defender, but like in this offense, what is he really gonna be? He's definitely gonna be the third option. He's just gonna be like a higher end version of what they have Tobias Harris doing right now. Like I don't
Better
really.
defender, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, obviously better defender, obviously better on offense, but like how much better is it that much better to put you over the edge? And like this team, whether I think at this point, like everybody needs to admit it, like this team is going to live or die by Joel Embiid's health. Like
Oh yeah.
at that point, that's what it comes down to. And you're adding guy who's not the most healthy player, and Paul George, who's getting later in his career now, to this team. Like again, not official, but I mean it's good to keep you in the conversation that you're maybe now a move away, but like, what is that move? How many assets are you going to have now? Like, it's just going to be interesting to see. So I don't know. It doesn't move me particularly. Like, you're definitely third in the East. That's getting more and more competitive. So I'll see. Like, it's not something that I'm like, oh, that's a league shattering. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still going to be very reliant on everybody's health on that team.
Yeah, no. And we're kind of looking at this side for the Clippers, a lot of stuff happening right now with their team. James Harden, 2 years, $70 million, to bring him in. This is such a weird situation because you kind of got to look for it not only from a basketball success standpoint, from a business standpoint. You're opening a brand new stadium this next season. Is Kawhi Leonard going to ask out for a trade in the next 48 hours? Who knows? Russell Westbrook, I just saw a report. He's expected to be working with the Clippers to find to find a trade for a new team. Very interesting there. So, what is this team going to be? Is DeMar DeRozan just going to join in to be able to say he's back in LA? Maybe they just throw a ton of money at him because who else are they going to have show up at the Intuit Dome? But really confusing situation. And like I alluded to earlier, this team traded, I think, 5 first-round picks in 2 pick swaps in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander for Paul George, and they got nothing out of it. I mean, so the 2021 unprotected first ended up doing Trey Mann. Didn't really, mean much.
He's decent,
but
like he's in Charlotte. Yeah.
Yeah. Jalen Williams. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's about almost on par with Paul George at this point.
Yeah, that's
it's crazy.
tough.
And he wasn't even the best player trading that deal. They still have the Clippers unprotected first round pick next year, or they had it this year, and the right to swap next year in a stacked draft class where the Clippers might end up being a lottery team. And oh my goodness, do not tell me that the Thunder could get Cooper Flag.
Imagine they're that bad. Like the Clippers are that bad next year. If one injury goes their way or against them, like they could be one of the worst teams in the league by far.
So let's look at this realistically.
A stacked West.
So yeah, it's the most stacked conference. The Spurs might even be over them going next year, but
yeah, so the Spurs are a playoff team now.
Your team 100%. Might just be, James Harden, Norman Powell. Let's just say Kawhi, but who knows? He might sit out.
Kawhi for 50 games, maybe.
So I'd say realistically, this team's probably going to win 36 games with how it looks. I want to trust Ty Lue. He's one of the better coaches in the league, but let's say they win 36 games. They might end up with the 10th pick. I don't know how much you've looked in this 2025 draft, but I've done a lot of looking into this because, college prospects. There are a ton. This might be one of the best draft classes we've seen in a long time. You got, Ace Bailey. You got Dylan Harper, both guys at Rutgers. You got, Cooper Flag. They also got, I forget, from NBA. They got some 7th through Jaleel Bethea over at Miami. There's so much talent. And to have the fact that the Thunder, who are going to be stacked by that time going into it, it's crazy.
Plus, they're going to have all their draft capital from everybody else. Why not just move up in that class? If you get like a top 10 pick, you can pair that with whatever. Like the Thunder are in such a good spot, and the Clippers have set them up to be a dynasty for the next 20 years because of this Paul George trade. Like this Paul George trade it's maybe one of the worst trades in my lifetime, just for return on investment that you're getting. Like, you made the conference finals in 21 and lost to the Suns and that was the furthest you went. And now you're opening this new stadium. Everybody on your team is injury prone. Like if I was in that position, I would want to start a rebuild. Like it seems like a funeral home for former superstars now, like with James Harden. Like if they add DeRozan on now, like what are we actually doing here? Like, what is the end goal? Like, you're not going to be LA is always going to be a Lakers town, and the only way to change that would be an NBA championship. And there was no clear path to getting an NBA championship with this roster right now. Like, to me, you just blow it up at this point. Like, would you rather be in the middle or just tank for 2 or 3 years and then you're there? Like, it's bad. They're in a really bad spot.
So let's kind of go back to the Thunder aspect of it. I know we're kind of going off on a tangent, but I got a kind of cool proposal at you. So let's say the Thunder get the 3rd overall pick because of the Clippers next year. They swap with that. Let's look around the league. Does anyone come to mind that you think by the time the 2025 offseason comes around that the Thunder could put their assets together to bring that guy in? They already have, they have Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Shea, that's their core. I can't imagine they can move off any of those guys. So is there someone
But I think some superstars can become available in this time frame.
Is there a name?
Yeah, no, I have like three on my like. I think Giannis, if this season does not go the way they want to, I think
Oh,
he could ask out of Milwaukee. I think Embiid, if this season goes bad in Philadelphia, I think he could ask out. I think KD can ask out in Phoenix, who's obviously not on the level of those other two guys as of right now, but still a top 15 player you can add to your team, bring him back to Oklahoma City. Like there are a lot of guys that I could see who would immediately elevate them to being the best team in the NBA, um, based on their assets that they have and based on the situation that these guys are in. Like I could totally see Giannis asking out after this season. It,
yeah.
I think if they did that trade, the Damian Lillard trade to keep him in Milwaukee, and if that doesn't go right, like why would he be there?
Yeah, no, I mean, hold up. I'm trying to look. Yeah, Dame's 33. Like, he's not
Yeah,
getting younger. Like, Chris
it,
Middleton's nothing anymore. Brooke
yeah,
Lopez
no,
is
Chris
going to get
Middleton's
moved.
washed. Yeah,
They
like
drafted a guy that I think you and I both probably looked at each other and said, "Who is this guy?" When they
exactly,
drafted.
averaging the same points amount as Bronny. Like, what are we talking about here? Like,
Yeah, but
it's
it
I
can
the
really crazy with them.
yeah.
Oh,
And don't forget who to blame. It's the Clippers. The Clippers set them up to be so successful. I can't believe SGA and Jalen Williams in both these, and maybe even like a top five guy in the next draft class, which is a stacked draft class. Like, that's actually insane for
yeah.
Paul George. For Paul George, bro.
I mean,
Like,
he
what are
was
we
coming
talking?
off an MVP like caliber season, but still,
I know, but like, look at what happened. Like, it's just, it's bad. It's really
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Clippers are in the mud.
Well, hey, let's go back.
Wait,
Speaking
can I speak on the Clippers?
Yeah, go
They
ahead.
have they have their trio of evil now. Josh Primo, Kevin Porter Jr., and Kai Jones. So hopefully this will bring people to the Intuit Dome. Like, they're so cooked. They're so cooked. It's so funny.
Speaking of the other team in LA, a player potentially rumored to be heading there, Klay Thompson, shout out legend of the Warriors. I kind of came to the realization that his time was probably going to be coming to an end going into this past season. So, Klay Thompson, potentially rumored to the Lakers with Orlando, seemingly out of it with their guy, Kentavious Caldwell Pope. I know the Mavericks are a team that's been floated around. Potentially, I've seen a sign and trade might be getting worked out with the Warriors and his next team. But I'd assume the Lakers got to be high on his list. His dad played there. He's staying, within the state. What are your thoughts on if that's the fit by the time this post or in a hypothetical world? What do you think the fit with Klay Thompson in LA looks like?
I mean, it's always felt like if it wasn't the Warriors, Clay would want to go to the Lakers. Like it's always felt that way with the dad, growing up in the didn't you grow up in the LA area? Like
Yeah.
it seems like all signs are pointing to that. And let's not like Clay Thompson is complete ass. Like he did average like 18 points last season. Like he's still like a decent guy who could be like a fourth option on a championship team.
Oh yeah.
And like if he goes to the Lakers, you have LeBron James again, like damn near year 20, but he's still maybe a top 15 player in the league. Anthony Davis, when he's right, top 10 player in the league. We have guys like AR-15, and you have D'Angelo Russell, who's a possible trade candidate alongside Klay Thompson. I think that's the best the Lakers are going to do in their current situation. And I think that is like, if the cards go right for them, they can be a championship contender again with Klay on their team. Like that is such a high end like guy to have as your fourth option on this team, which or even fifth. Like if D'Lo's going off, like I really do think like this could be like a really really solid move for the Lakers. So I'm a
Yeah.
fan of it.
And I mean, they probably would do him on like a 2-year deal. He helps, get a guy like Dalton Connect ready to step into his place,
Hmm.
help out Austin Reeves, so on and so forth. I think it'd be a great move. It's going to be sad to see him, in another jersey playing 4 times a year, but it is what it is. Yeah, I think I always in my head when I would always be asked the question, who would you want to, who would you get rid of in the big three? It was always Clay. I mean, no disrespect to Clay because he is an NBA Hall of Famer.
He's a legend.
Draymond, you kind of need that on your team. And I mean, with the emergence of guys like Podzemski and, Kaminga and Gary Payton get some more minutes, I feel like it just made more sense that it would have been Clay, and no surprise. But let's look over to another trade. Well, to trades, talking about trade, going back to trades, a big one happened. Atlanta, seemingly was in between trading Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I was going to go insane if they traded Trae Young because I think he is extremely overhated. One of the best playmakers in the league, one of the best offensive players. They trade DeJounte Murray in a package to New Orleans centered around Larry Nance Jr., Dyson Daniels, and some first round draft capital. I think that's some second rounders in there as well, potentially. I don't remember the exact package, but what are your thoughts kind of just on both sides? I think Daniels is always an intriguing prospect. I liked him going into that draft.
Mhm.
But what do you think this means for New Orleans? And kind of what do you see from
I
this in a roster? Because they're probably going to be tanking for.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Atlanta, what is the rationale at this point for keeping Trae Young? Because this is not a win now move. Like, if your key piece in the trade back for a player is Dyson Daniels, who, again, we were both high on that draft. I do like him quite a bit. I think he has shown really great flashes on the defensive end. And if he's able to get more run in Atlanta, he can maybe develop more on the offensive end. But I think they just off of this move alone, I think they should move off of Trae Young and just restart this rebuild. Like you have your first pick now with Zachary Risachet. You have a guy that you can develop in Dyson Daniels. You have some nice pieces on the wing with guys like Jalen Johnson. Like it'll be interesting, but for the Hawks, I don't love it if you keep Trae Young, but I do like it if you move off of him. And this is just the first move of the offseason that's going to be more tearing it down and building for the future.
Yeah.
Um, but for the Pelicans, I also think it's like a move away. Because clearly it seems like Brandon Ingram is not going to be on the Pelicans this next season. It's gonna depend on what they get uh, for Ingram because I think depending on that, it'll tell me whether or not the Pelicans are going to be trying to contend for a championship or they're kind of going to be middling, kind of how they've been. But again, all of this really relies on how good Zion's going to be and what Zion's mental is going to be like and what his physical is going to be like. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's gonna wait and see. I like the move for the Pelicans right now, but it's just both these moves feel like they shouldn't be the final moves these teams make in the offseason.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at. I mean, I know the Kings are a destination that's been talked a lot about in the last few hours since we've been recording this as a potential move for Brandon Ingram. I think they need to make add a third team in that deal because they're not moving off Domantas Sabonis, and this team needs a center.
Mhm.
Valanciunas, by the way, signing 3 years, $30 million with the Washington Wizards. Looks like he's going to be kind
Get
of
your bag.
fill in the void for Daniel Gafford, but really kind of be there with Alex Sarr and his development, two foreign guys. But I think you got to look at a team. A team that's looking to unload center talent, the Portland Trailblazers. I think you can kind of make a three-team deal in there, find a way to get Robert Williams, who's worth basically nothing at this point.
Lord.
Get Time Lord, bring him over. I think he'd be a great fit. A defensive player of the year candidate when healthy. I mean, people kind of forgot about him because Marcus Smart was really that guy on defense for the Celtics. I know Celtics fans kind of were frustrated,
Keyword when healthy.
when healthy, but still, I mean, you got to take a guy that's not going to be worth much, you may as well take your bet with him, make kind of a three-team trade there, bring him over. I'm assuming they probably get some stuff out of Sacramento as well. Keegan Murray's
Mhm.
probably going to be a really hard player to move on from, and I imagine they don't do that, but probably some future draft capital. But
Yeah.
interesting pick. And I think with Atlanta, this whole time I was thinking, why don't trade Trae Young to the Spurs, get all your draft capital back from this DeJounte Murray trade you did, and just gut it. Like, get rid of Clint Capella.
I mean, I agree with that. Like with the Chris Paul signing, it unfortunately seems like that's probably not going to
Yeah.
happen. But to me, that's the move they should make. Just like trade Trae Young to them, he would be a great piece next to Wemby on the defensive end. They can hide a lot of his
Oh,
uh his
100.
uh, his issues with the guys they've just drafted with Castle and with Wemby in the paint. Like I think that would be a fantastic fit, and it could jumpstart the Hawks. But I don't
I'd rule
really
it out.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what the team is now for Trey Young if they move off of him.
I don't
Uh,
think they do, but it's just confusing. And then
yeah.
kind of some other deals. Patrick Williams, 5 years, 90 million. I don't know what he does that's impressive to get 5 years, 90 million. Chicago's a big enough market. They shouldn't have to pay for him that much. Chicago also seemingly struggled to trade Zach LaVine. Crazy to think about. I think he was averaging like 27 points a game like 2 or 3 years ago. Now he's seemingly worthless on the trade block. I got to imagine some teams willing to take a risk. Hey, if Atlanta, if you're going to keep Trey Young, why not go for someone like him? Quite honestly,
Yeah.
it's that production from DeJounte Murray, and who knows? That'd be a terrible defensive backcourt, but just have to
Maybe it would
trust
be a
that.
better offensive fit though.
Yeah, but and then Obi Toppin, 4 years, 60 million from the Pacers. Free my boy Jarace Walker. He needs some playing
I
time there.
know.
He's not going to touch the court with Obi Toppin making
Hey,
50
Sticks is
million.
gone though.
I think Siakam's making like 35 in his new extension. But yeah, any other kind of moves or maybe things you're kind of hoping to see this offseason?
I do want to mention the Nuggets with the KC, like the Nugget side of the KCP
Yeah,
thing. Like, you have Nikola Jokic. He is the best player in the league. And you are making money saving moves to stay under the cap.
yeah.
I think that is just complete like a loser attitude. The owner should be genuinely ashamed of himself. You are risking a potential dynasty with Jokic as your best player, just to save money in the short term. I hate that move from the Nuggets perspective.
Eh,
Um,
I mean, I can see like they do have some replacements for him. Maybe
ooh,
they saw out of Christian Braun. Maybe he elevates him
Oh,
to
okay.
the
Show me
starting lineup.
something then. He
Maybe
had the whole season to play. Like he had with the Bruce Brown rule that was opened up. Like it just
he
seems like
shot.
these guys who are consistently like have shown they're great with Jokic, they're moving off of him to try to like make these rookies work that like you don't know if they're sure things. And I just hate that. I think when you're in this window, you have to go for it. And I think this is like a loser move to try to save some money.
Yeah, I mean, they must have, high expectations for guys like, Julian Strother, Pickett, Braun. Peyton Watson was a guy that, showed a lot of good signs last year. But yeah, I mean, like you got to make moves. I mean, like Crump, like, you got your team's got to be willing to spend, you
You
know.
got to go into the tax if you're
And this
if
is a team that's not going to attract big free agents, despite
exactly.
Nikola Jokic being there. Like, are they really going to want to come there? Like, that's why you
Yeah.
keep guys like MPJ and Murray, and interesting situation. But
Mhm.
I don't think I've seen any other moves have
Yeah,
happened.
nothing else that like stands out to me because I feel like I feel like the biggest like bold move is going to be whatever Paul George does. And I mean, we can talk about Isaiah Hartenstein. Like, I think the Knicks, like, he could do like a blue collar New Yorker, like, oh, I'm re-signing for less to say try to win a
I
championship.
think
But like,
OKC.
he should go to OKC to get a bag and also compete for a championship because that would be like a great spot for him.
Yeah.
I'm looking down the line, like nothing's really, shown out to me. Like we touched on the Clippers, Max Christie, 4 years, 32, 8 million a year. Like, okay, cool.
Is there a
I
team
don't
you think
know.
needs to make a splash to kind of either stay in contender status or, get themselves into it? Like a team that, maybe finished kind of middle of the pack, maybe like, the Miami Heat sort of
I
situation.
well the Heat do need to do something because I like what is your end game here? Like it feels like you're always like their number two for a superstar, and the superstar always goes to somewhere else who like
Because they
will
don't.
give up
Yeah.
more. Yeah, like it just feels like they're always like a move away from contention and they don't want to make the move. It seems like Jimmy Butler, as much as I'm sure people in Miami love Jimmy Butler, like how many more years are we like this past year was probably the worst of the Jimmy Butler era in Miami just because of how many games he played and like the situation that he put them in to be in the playoffs, like for to be in the play-in like that again. Like I just think it's kind of tough to do that year in and year out and expect them to make a huge run like they did when they went to the championship. Like the Heat, I think, need to need to do something. I mean, we didn't even really talk about the Bridges trade, but I think that the Knicks were one of those teams where I'm like, they need to do something this offseason
I did.
to propel them to be a true championship contender and not just a championship contender in the hearts and minds of New York Knicks fans. But like, I think they did genuinely.
Yeah.
So like, not really off dome of like,
Who should be a
that.
Laurie Markkinen contender this offseason?
Hmm,
Or do you think he
I'm
just doesn't get traded? I think he doesn't get traded.
I don't think he does either. I think he's happy in Utah. I think Utah's happy to have like a guy they can be like, oh, he's really good, but he's not like, he's not single-handedly going to make you go to the playoffs. He's the tank commander. That's what he is. Like Larry Markkinen, the Finnish tank commander, like he is leading them through this tank job, selling tickets along the way. A white guy they can have as a guy in Utah. Like it makes a whole lot of sense to me that he's their guy in Utah. So,
I mean, hey,
uh,
does Kyle Filipowski stand up for them enough? So
guys, pray for Kyle, pray for his family. He's
crazy,
in a cult right now. Free him.
crazy stuff. But I mean, kind of just going back to, I mean, I know Cam Johnson's a guy,
If you, yeah, I mean the Nets already accelerated the rebuild, so like I would see them being sellers with guys like Dennis Schroeder and Cam Johnson and DFS and guys like that. Like you can try to move off of pieces. If somebody wants to take, like, you could just sell super low on Ben Simmons, get like nothing for him, and then
they
just like
should
get
waive
off of
him.
that.
They should just waive him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Like do something there. The Nets could be more sellers.
okay. So I got this for you. So I'm honestly struggling at this because I could very well see in the East end up the same way last year, like this coming year than it did this coming year than it did this year.
Mhm.
Looking at the teams that did not make the play-in tournament, you have the Nets, the Raptors, the Hornets, the Wizards, the Pistons. I don't have the data on me, but I can imagine the same, teams that finished in the top 10, from one year didn't happen to be in the top 10 the next year. I'll have to look back on that because that'd be pretty
I feel
wild.
like the
Which, yeah,
Hornets are the only one there that would like probably do better
not,
than they
not
did
even the
this year.
Raptors.
It seems like they're kind of moving laterally instead of like forward or backwards. Like I can see them doing it if Scotty Barnes it breaks out, then
Well, think
maybe.
about this. So you got Emmanuel quickly. So you probably got Grady Dick slotting in
I
because
think play-in
Gary,
potential.
I mean, Gary
Who we
Trent's
got?
gone. You have RJ Barrett, Scotty, you got Pirtle, you got Jacoby Walter they just selected, Ochai Baji, Bruce Brown, I think is a trade target. I mean, a trade chip for them at this point, but I mean, maybe they make it back. I mean, like it's not a strong East outside of like the top at this point. It's really top heavy with the Celtics and the Knicks at this point. I mean,
Yeah, Celtics, Knicks 1-2, Milwaukee 76ers tier 2.
mm,
Cleveland, Orlando,
like he,
Indiana,
yeah.
tier 3, Heat, and then I think there's a drop off after the Heat. Like the Bulls, they're going to be middling. They're going to be worse probably.
Nine to
Uh,
nine to
I
15
think
in
the
the East is
Hornets
gonna
and the
suck.
Raptors are going to be the ones that move up probably
No.
in the East.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough to see. I mean, like I can't imagine any team from 9 to 15 getting in the top six. I'd be baffled. I think it would have to be like, the Hornets are entirely healthy. Like Brandon Miller becomes, a 20, like
Brandon Miller breakout, LaMelo consistently healthy.
Mark Williams, double double,
Mark Williams is good. Your
Salon
pick
Hassan
is
rookie.
decent. Yeah. I mean, I could see that though. Like, I really do like their coach. Like, I feel like they will be a playing team, bare minimum,
Oh,
but I don't see
yeah.
them in the top six.
I mean,
Like,
what?
I think that top six is pretty set with the 76ers getting PG too. Like, I feel
Oh, and I
like
forgot they still have Nick Smith Jr., who like I'm still waiting for. I mean, he just played his rookie season, so we'll see.
they're definitely gonna move off of Nick Richards. Let's like they still have some moves to make.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do feel like the Hornets and the Raptors are probably the ones that move up. I mean, we can go to the West though right now. I mean, like,
I think there's a lot of teams that can move up in the West, though, is my thing. Like, I'm really high on the West. Like, I think there's only
oh
like two
yeah.
teams I can't see do anything in the West, which I think next year, I think the Clippers might finish bottom two in the conference if
I think
it goes the
it's
way we think.
Trailblazers, Jazz, and Clippers are like the teams that I have like zero Zero
Even the
expectations for them.
Jazz were frisky, but like I say no, yeah, they'll probably
Yeah, I
finish.
mean, they're Will Hardy's a great coach. If
But
these
like,
guys develop, like, I mean, we're so high on their pick last year,
yeah,
and they had a good draft this year. Like the Jazz are definitely going to be better, but like, how much better can you get in the West? Like, I could see the Kings not well, not. I feel like they're going to stay stagnant. The Warriors
might drop
might
off.
get worse. Yeah, they'll probably get worse. Pelicans will be better. Lakers will be better. If the Suns have a healthy season plus a different head coach, I think they will be better. The Mavericks will, they're probably going to be similar. Lakers worse. Timberwolves better.
Clippers were, yeah.
Timberwolves.
Denver might drop to like 5 or 6, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like the Nuggets out of the contenders are probably going to. I mean, we have to see what they're doing or the rest of free agency, but I do not like how it's starting.
Maybe they
I
get
mean,
Gary Trent. I think that'd be a great replacement to fill in for KCP.
yeah, I mean, I think Thunder Timberwolves is tier one.
Yeah. But like, I mean, look, the Rockets and the Grizzlies are both going to contend for top 8 seeds next year.
Yeah,
And the Spurs are going to contend for a play-in spot.
if not a playoff spot, bro. Like
Like,
when I could see Wemby making a crazy leap.
uh,
I'm such a big Wemby guy. You know this about me, though. I feel
I
like
say
I'm,
Wemby, all
bro.
NBA.
He could be all NBA,
I
like
think he's second.
easily.
I think he's
Yeah,
second next year. It'll be all, I mean, he was all defensive, so that's not a bad shout.
yeah.
But like the Grizzlies, like,
The
like
Grizzlies will be better. The
people
Rockets will be
forget about
better.
John Morant. Like, if they're healthy,
Yeah,
like
no,
that team was
exactly.
never healthy. That was their issue. But
hmm
like, dude, think about this. So they got Jaw, they have Desmond Bain,
Jaren
they have
Jackson.
Gigi Jackson,
Yeah,
Jaren Jackson, they have Zach Edey, who
we'll
probably
see.
I think what you hope for him is he's Steven Adams, like year
But
one.
that I feel like the Grizzlies are a good team for him. Like for the places that Edie could have gone, like that's
Oh,
a good that's a really great fit for him.
I don't think there's many other better fits though. I don't think there's
Yeah,
really many
yeah.
other.
The Grizzlies. People forget about how good the Grizzlies were like 2 years ago. Like people will forget about that. They will surprise teams. People forget about John Morant. He's kind of stayed out of trouble the past like 8 months, and now we're gonna see like a resurgence. We'll see how good he comes back though.
And then
But
you have
like the West is so stacked.
Marcus Smart's a key reserve for you.
Yeah, it's so
I know
stacked.
what's his name? Vince Williams Jr. was really good in his minutes last year. I imagine they're going to make some kind of sneaky moves during free agency this year.
I love their front office. They're always good drafting. So I like they definitely will.
Yeah, I know Taylor Jenkins, like I said, solid coach. I mean, like
Mhm.
Josh should be in contention for All NBA next year, no doubt about that. Like they just need help,
The
and
league is so stacked.
I think the only problem, like those teams that aren't going to do well in the West, are just going to be injury riddled. Like there's going to be a team that's we think like going into the season, there's no way they're not, but like it is just how it works,
Yeah.
So
Like no one before this season thought the Grizzlies would end up like 13th in the West. Like nobody thought that. That was just because of like injuries and
well,
suspensions
do
and
you
stuff like
remember
that.
where I had them? I had them at 2.
Yeah, like people were really high on them and for good reason. Like there's always injuries. It's like free agency just started. We'll see, especially with the Olympics this year's guys are going to be run down.
Mhm.
So we'll see. We'll see. I'm very excited though. Like the NBA is so good right now. I think the East did get better at the top, so it's going to be very interesting to see anybody challenge the Celtics. It should be more fun next year, bare minimum,
Yeah, no,
than it
it
was this year.
should be a really entertaining year. Like I hate to say it, but like when the Knicks are good, like basketball is doing well.
Basketball is good, bro.
Like when the
I
Lakers are
I
good.
hate when the big market like truthers out there. I hate you, but like you're right. Like
Yes.
when the Lakers are good, when New York's good, the
Like
league is
there's gonna be
good.
like good game. Like let's hope PG goes to the Sixers because like there's gonna be some prime time games versus the Celtics and the Knicks. Like,
hmm
oh, there's gonna be like it's gonna be good. I really and then like everyone's looking forward to seeing Cooper Flag and all those guys coming to the
Yeah,
draft.
even the bad teams, you actually have something to tank for this year.
Yeah, no.
Like the bad teams, at least it'll be like, okay, at the end of the year, who will lose more games, the Pistons or the Wizards? Like it'll be fun.
Well, it's like it's gonna be funny because like the bottom teams in the West will have made the playoffs in the East. Like I think it's gonna
Yeah. No,
I think that
100%.
happen. Yeah. So well, and we'll see. I'm excited to see who's gonna be the surprise teams. But hey, we'll have to hop back on. some more crazy stuff. We'll see whether we'll have to come back and end of free agency, do some grading, talk about some summer league, how the boy Bronny's gonna be doing. So
Shout out Ronald.
yeah. All right, any other things or we all done?
No, I think we kind of hit on everything.
All right,
Fun
well,
draft, fun story.
appreciate you guys for those that stuck around. It's been Coast to Coast Podcast. We will be back. We gotta talk some more NBA, but signing out. Peace.